Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H event space. Today we're packing for our next landscape photography trip, hosted by Sony, and of course that requires the use of the wonderful Autumn Schrock to get us through this packing. This is the you're undertaking the thing that everyone hates, Autumn. So no pressure here. We're gonna put it all on your shoulders. This is the time of year everybody starts to plan their trips. So you look like you're up, ready to go. I'm gonna turn it over to you and to remind all of our viewers that if you do have any questions, don't wait. If you're watching live, get those questions in. Autumn will hopefully be able to answer all of them. If not, we'll have her circle back around. She's here enough. But Autumn, take it away. I'll see you in a bit for some Q&A.
All right. Well, hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. I apologize in advance. I'm kind of losing my voice, so hopefully we'll be able to make it through the whole presentation. But yes, so let's chat packing for landscape photo trips. I mean, like you said, pretty much the bane of I think every photographer's existence. Packing is just stressful, especially when it's for a photo related trip. Like it's stressful in general, but then you throw in a bunch of camera gear and other technological stuff, and then it just complicates it. But like when I was first starting out with travel and landscape photography, just the thought of forgetting something gave me so much anxiety because not only do we put in a lot of effort to like plan these trips to get to the locations, sometimes they're very remote, but it can also kind of take away your creative headspace when you forget something. Um, so for me, I feel like when I am getting into into the packing for these trips, I find like, okay, I have to go through all my things because if I don't, I know myself that I'll probably get frustrated that I forgot something. Maybe you forget a super important piece of gear, like your camera or something, and then the entire trip is just kind of ruined. Um, but the good thing about landscape photography, one of the many good things, is that being out in nature can be incredibly therapeutic. So there's at least that if you do forget something. But over the years, I've developed a few methods that help me to go into these trips feeling more prepared and more confident so that all I have to do is show up, I can take photos, I can experience the landscape, and I can be creative. And so I'm excited to share with you this info because I have ADHD, so forgetting things is kind of a sore spot for me, something that I struggle with. Um, I've definitely got my packing down to a science now. So if I can just help a single person to be able to be more prepared for their trips and to not forget something, I will be a very, very happy camper. But first things first, so before I even start gathering things or, I don't know about you, but I used to just pick things that I needed and would just drop them in the middle of the room. And then I would just sit down and get really overwhelmed and I wouldn't know where to start. So before I even get anything out, I ask myself three questions. One, how long is the trip? Two, what will I be photographing? And three, what is the elevation and the time of year where I'm going? So all three of these questions will not only affect how I pack, but also what I pack. So number one, how long is the trip? This one is the easiest, pretty straightforward, determines if I need one suitcase, if I need multiple suitcases, maybe I can share chargers across devices, or maybe it's going to be more intensive, so I need to bring in a charger for each device, or this determines how many clothes I need to bring, things like that. Pretty straightforward. Number two, what will I be photographing? So this determines the camera gear that I pack, of course. And I tend to not pack light in this area unless, of course, there are weight restrictions for the trip. But I've been in too many scenarios where I wished that I had a lens that I didn't and missed a potentially killer shot, and it still haunts me. So I bring a lot of my camera gear if I can. So I'm going to Greenland this fall, which I'm really excited about. So let's use that trip as our packing example. We'll be going around with a couple of my friends and my partner Nate on a sailboat, a small sailboat. We will be doing some hiking around shore and doing some camping for a couple of nights as well. And I have to pack extremely light for this trip, which is going to be pretty difficult. I think I'm only allowed 44 pounds total, which I don't know about you, but my camera bag can easily be close to that. So I have to be very strategic on what I decide to pack. But I did purchase ahead of time a few extra pounds just because I know there's no way I'm gonna make 44 pounds. So now I've never been to Greenland. I've never been to the location that I'm going, and chances are you probably haven't been to your next landscape photography destination before either. And that can be a bit overwhelming to know, what camera gear do I bring? So thankfully, a lot of this information can be found fairly easily online. Um, so that you can feel, more prepared. You can anticipate the types of landscapes you'll be seeing and photographing. So I use things like Google Earth for satellite imagery to take a look at the landscapes, photo pills, taking a look at the moon phases, if there will be any chance for astrophotography, also like sunrise and sunset times. Then I also use shademap.app, which is a really cool website that shows you basically like what features will be in the shade at what time versus when they'll be in the sun. So that's another cool thing to look at. Um, I also look on just like Instagram, Google Maps, Google Images, All Trails, photography blogs. They're all great resources that can help you figure out kind of what kind of gear you need to bring. And it always helps if you have a few photography friends that you can ask who maybe have been there, or maybe you follow someone who you know has been there, reach out to them, see if they can give you some advice. But the like where I'm going, hasn't been photographed very much, which is both a pro and a con, right? I'm excited to take some new photos, but also that means it's a little bit harder to figure out what I need to bring. But luckily, there's that satellite imagery with Google Earth, and that's been very helpful. So things that I'm expecting to shoot are landscapes, obviously, our sailboat, because it's really beautiful. Probably some of my friends, some like adventure photography style while we're hiking around and such. And then hopefully some wildlife and aurora as well, since we're going to be there in the fall. And so with this information in mind, it's kind of a wide variety of photography that I'm planning to do or hoping to do. But so I'll start with camera bodies. I'm going to be bringing my Sony A7R5, and then I'm also going to bring my Sony Alpha 1. These are like my go-to cameras. I love these. The A7R5 I'll probably use more for the landscapes. And anytime I'm photographing something where maybe I know already, like later on, I'm going to want to crop it a little bit, just since the A7R5 has the high resolution. And then for the Alpha 1, I'll use it for its speed for wildlife, hoping that we'll get to see, maybe some whales, some marine life. There's a chance for us to see polar bears, which is both exciting and terrifying at the same time. So kind of thinking about all of those different scenarios, I think I'll also use the A1 for low light also. They're both pretty dang good in low light scenarios, but I do feel like comparing the two, the Alpha 1 might be slightly better, probably just because, it's got fewer megapixels and whatnot. But these are the two camera bodies that I plan to be bringing. And you might be wondering why, if I have to pack so light, am I bringing two camera bodies? And partly I guess it's mostly because when you're on something like a boat and you're trying to photograph things, moments can be very fleeting because, often you're traveling quite fast past things. So being able to have one camera with one lens on it and then another camera with a different lens on it just allows me to minimize the risk of missing shots. So I can have like a 24-70 on one and then maybe like my 100-400 on another. So I can be shooting landscapes and then simultaneously also shooting wildlife. Because obviously things bobbing up and down out of the water can be fleeting, very fleeting as well. And then also, I want to be able to time lapse when we go to shore and then be able to shoot other things that as they happen as well. So that's my justification for packing two bodies and not packing lighter for that. But For lenses, I obviously want to bring an astro lens in the hopes of seeing the aurora. And I debated a prime lens versus a zoom lens, just I would have more versatility with the zoom lens. But I did some research. I looked at photo pills to see what the moon phase is going to be when I'm there. And it's going to be pretty close to new moon, which means there won't be any moonlight to help illuminate my foreground or the features that I'll be shooting, and that means it's going to be darker. So ultimately, I decided that I would go with a prime. So I think I'm going to bring my Sony 14mm f1.8 G Master lens, and it doesn't hurt that this thing is really compact and small and lightweight for how wide and sharp it is and fast it is. So I'm definitely going to be bringing my 14mm. And honestly, depending on, or I can shoot with either body, really. They both have enough megapixels where I can crop in if I find that 14 is a little bit too wide. Astro is easy because pretty much the lens needs to be fast, wide, but landscapes can be a little bit tougher to decide which lenses to bring. Some places demand a wider focal length, some demand a tighter focal length. And if you're having trouble figuring out, I don't know which one to bring, it helps if you think about your shooting style as well. Not only, looking around online, trying to find photos and like other focal lengths that people have used maybe, but also just what's your shooting style? Do you tend to shoot a little bit tighter or do you tend to shoot a little bit wider? If you find that you are more of a wide or a tighter shooter, maybe don't bring your 16 to 35 or rent a 16 to 35, I guess, in the hopes that, you might need it. Just for me, I'm having to pack so light that I need to make sure every piece of gear I bring serves a very strong purpose. So for me, if like I find that I'm a bit of a tighter shooter, so I would rather bring my tighter lenses that I feel like I shoot more with. And if I find that it's too wide, then I can take a bit of a panorama maybe or stitch that together later. So just keeping your shooting style in mind is important as well. But I know that 24 to 70 and 100 to 400 are my most two focal lengths or focal ranges, I should say. So I know for sure I'm going to be bringing my Sony 24 to 70mm f2.8 G Master Mark II, and the Mark II is lighter and smaller, which is also very helpful for this trip, having to pack lighter. And then my 100 to 400, Sony 100 to 400 G Master lens. This is probably my favorite lens, which is why it's a non-negotiable. I could probably bring the Sony 70 to 200mm f4G, I think it's the macro lens that just came out, I think it was last year, which is much smaller and lighter than this, but I know myself, and I know that I'm probably going to wish I had those extra 200mm. So this is coming along, even though it is a little bit heavier than some of the other options, but it's my favorite. Plus, there's potential for wildlife. So I think that's the lens that I'm going to want to have in the hopes of capturing some wildlife as well. So I've got the wide end covered with my 14mm. And then if I need, I can zoom in or crop in, to 24mm. Then I've got my 24 to 70 range. And then from 70 to 100 is another gap where I can easily crop in if I want to, and then through 400. So I'm pretty much covered from 14 all the way through 400, which is a massive focal length range, especially with 3 lenses, and one of them is a prime. So that's pretty awesome. And I'm excited that this is the only thing I have to bring with me. So love that. And I debated bringing a small drone along with me, but I have to at least pretend to try to pack light. So I think I'm probably not going to bring it, and maybe I'll see if I can borrow one of my friends. But we'll continue packing as though I'm not bringing it because I'm leaning toward that. But so knowing not only the type of photography that you'll be capturing, but also getting a better handle on the location, its features if possible, and the rules for the area, like can I fly a drone there? You can in Greenland, but those stats all help you figure out like which lenses that you need to bring, which camera bodies that you need to bring, etc. On to question number 3. What time of year is it, and what's the elevation where I'm going? And this is a big one, and maybe counterintuitively you think that since it's a photo trip, that the camera gear one would be the biggest one, but the climate, elevation, time of year, these all will determine a lot of different factors. Mostly the clothing layers that you need to pack and be prepared for, of course. Even if it's summer, if it's like 80 degrees in the valley, wherever you fly into, and then you're hiking up into the mountains, you need to be prepared for winter weather, even if it's the middle of July, because that is the mountains. And a lot of people aren't totally aware of that, especially if you've never like spent much time in the mountains before, but the temperature as you go up drops pretty dramatically, and then the mountains kind of create their own weather, and so that can also drop the temperature down. So not only will this make your trip more comfortable and allow you to focus on shooting and not focus on like being so cold, but it can also save your life. Being unprepared in the wilderness is a recipe for disaster, so I definitely take that seriously. Being prepared is the first leave no trace principle, after all. If you're not familiar with the leave no trace principles, I highly recommend looking into them if you're going to be spending time outdoors. I have a blog on my website that goes through all 7 principles if you're curious, and you can just go to autumnschrock.com/blog to check that out if you want. But for our example, I'm heading to the Arctic, Greenland, and it's in the shoulder season in fall, so the temperature will be, I mean, it could be fairly chilly but temperate, or a blizzard could pass through and it could be freezing. It could kind of go either way. I'm hopefully going to be doing some astro, and I know that I'm going to be getting up before sunrise to shoot, which is the coldest time of day. Then I also know that I'll be both at sea level when we're in the boat, as well as doing some hiking up into mountains. So I already know ahead of time that I need to have multiple different layers to regulate between when it's warmer versus when it's going to be much colder. And it's also important to know all of the trail information if you're going to be hiking on established trails. What's the elevation gain and loss? What's the starting elevation? Are there any obstacles that you need to be aware of ahead of time and prepare for, like river crossings, things like that? This information is usually pretty easily accessible online via like All Trails or state-based trail sites, like Washington Trails Association for Washington State is one that I use a lot from when I lived in Washington. People write up really great trip reports that give you like current trail conditions. Are there a bunch of bugs, or is there still snow on the trail? This area is kind of sketchy, watch out for this. So that can be really helpful. For mountain area weather, I highly recommend mountain-forecast.com. It's a weather site that gives you more detailed information into mountain weather, whereas if you use just like, apps on your phone like AccuWeather or Wonderground or something like that, they're just pulling the closest weather station, which is usually a town nearby, which will be very different weather than when you're actually in those mountains. So mountain-forecast.com is a really great tool for that if you're going to be heading into the mountains. I also recommend the weather app Windy for basically no matter where you are. It's a really great app that predicts not just temperature and rain and things like that, but also cloud cover, which is really helpful for landscape photographers. But look at the low temperatures for the nights, when you'll be doing astro or when you're going to be getting up before sunrise, and kind of plan from there. Make sure that you can be comfortable for those low temperatures, and maybe even give yourself a buffer of a few degrees lower just in case. So even though it won't technically be winter in Greenland where I'm going, I know that I'm going to be packing like it will be, because odds are it's probably going to snow at some point, so I should be prepared for that. And this means at least 2 fleece layers, insulation for my top, insulation for the bottom, rain shell, rain pants, beanies, gloves, like the whole 9 yards for winter. And that's going to be extra tricky for trying to pack light, but I might pack more than you or vice versa, depending on your body's temperature comfort level. You know, my partner Nate runs much warmer, which I think guys tend to do. And so he'll be packing fewer layers than me, but you know yourself best. So make sure that you're thinking about how you usually do in those temperatures. Another thing to keep in mind that I think a lot of people forget is just how much humidity and wind chill can affect how a temperature feels. I guess more so for hotter temperatures, make sure you're looking at the humidity levels as well. Um, Heat-related illnesses can sneak up on you very, very quickly. And often by the time you kind of realize, oh man, I'm kind of struggling, it's often too late. So definitely make sure you're paying attention to not just the temperature, but also the humidity. And then for cooler temperatures, wind chill is a huge factor as well. The stronger the wind blows, the faster your body heat is whisked away and you're going to feel much colder. So even if the temperature, you know, multiple days is the same, if you're not checking the winds and maybe the winds one day are 20 miles per hour, it's going to feel significantly colder. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And it's something that I'm thinking about a lot for this trip specifically too, because we're going to be on the ocean for a lot of it, which is often breezy. So. And then, you know, in more deserty areas with lower humidity, during the day, 50 degrees Fahrenheit can feel quite lovely in the sun, but then when you're in shade, it drops significantly. And as someone who grew up in the Midwest, I was not aware that was a thing because humidity usually, you know, keeps it pretty warm after the sunset. But here in Utah, you know, you learn very quickly that once the sun goes down, it drops a lot. So it can get really cold. So make sure that you're also taking a peek just at humidity levels and things like that on top of temperature. Lastly, knowing the time of year will also tell you what wildlife could be in the area, both for photographing and for avoiding. There's, you know, like I said, a small chance that there will be polar bears where we're going. So that's definitely something that me and my team are preparing for. And it's a good idea in general just to consider your own personal protection, how to act if you come across a specific wild animal, because you shouldn't handle every animal the same. And to have agreed upon steps in place, like with your group, if you're traveling with others, on what to do in case you do encounter a more dangerous animal like a bear. Okay, so after I've made these sort of initial preparations in my head, I'm thinking through all these things, I'm doing my research, then I start going through my packing lists. And like I said before, remembering things is not necessarily my strong suit, so I definitely live my life by packing lists. And I can say from multiple different friends who now use packing lists that they are very helpful, even if you have a good memory. So I have a day trip packing list on my blog that you can download. But for this trip, since it's a multi-day trip, I'm going to be going through my multi-day trip packing list, which I don't have up on my blog yet, but I'm working on it. So feel free to take notes. But one thing I want to say first is that I use comprehensive packing lists. So that means that I can cross things off that I don't need instead of remembering to add things that I do. So instead of like catering a packing list to each destination, I use the exact same one. So I just cross out things I don't need because I found early on that I would forget to add things if I would just like cater them to each trip. I would copy and paste it from one trip to another, and then I'd find, oh, I forgot to add this thing. So for me, I find it easier just to add every single thing that I could possibly want and then go from there. So I have 8 sections to my packing list. 1, the 10 essentials, if I'm hiking, which I almost always am on these trips. 2, camera gear. 3, tech and travel gear. 4, clothing and footwear. Number 5, food and water. 6, outdoor gear. 7, important personal items, and this includes toiletries. And then 8 is a to-do list. So number 1, the 10 essentials. So navigation, I guess I should say, if you're not familiar with what the 10 essentials are, basically they're just the 10 items you should have with you if you're going to be out hiking. In case something were to happen, these items will allow you to stay safe, hopefully get rescued, or help you to get yourself out safely. Okay, so 10 essentials, we've got navigation. So that could be paper maps or something like a Garmin GPS, which is what I use. I use a Garmin InReach Mini. I think this is the 2nd generation too. I love paper maps for like backpacking. I love the feel of using old paper maps. But for this trip, I'm just going to be using a Garmin because I'm not anticipating really needing to navigate much since we're going to have a crew on the ship. So headlamp, of course, it's going to be um, not midnight sun in the Arctic, so it's going to get dark, and hopefully we're going to be shooting some aurora borealis. So headlamp's important. First aid kit. This is something that I think I see a lot of photographers skimp on because they think, oh, like nothing's going to happen to me. I'm just going out to take some photos and I'll hike back, but you never know what could happen. And the one time you're going to wish that you had a first aid kit. So I make my own. I'm a wilderness first responder, so first aid is pretty important to me. But you can just pick up your own at REI. I do recommend tailoring them to you, though. Often the things that you'll get in there are maybe not the items that you like to use, or maybe aren't relevant for a certain trip or whatnot. So I usually just cater to my needs. I just use like a 1 liter dry bag from Sea to Summit, and then I just use like little Ziploc bags for organizing. Next is sun protection. I have some sunscreen in my first aid kit, and chapstick is also something to keep in mind that I think people forget about too. So also an SPF chapstick is pretty important. A knife or a multi-tool. If I'm backpacking, I'll probably bring a Leatherman multi-tool, but for a shorter trip like this, where I'm not going to be doing a ton of backpacking, I'll probably just bring a little small pocket knife. This is the Benchmade Bug Out Mini, which is carbon fiber and it weighs like basically nothing, so it's great. But don't forget to put this in your checked bag and not your carry-on bag, because you'll be very sad to see a $300 knife get taken away by TSA. Fire. So this could be like a lighter or waterproof matches. I have both in my first aid kit, and I also have some little fire starters too, just in case. Shelter. I use emergency blankets. I just have a couple in my first aid kit as well, just in case you need to shelter from the elements and if things turn south. And then extra food, extra water, and extra clothes. Basically more than you think you'll need, because you never know what might happen. You might get lost or injured and you have to stay overnight somewhere. So making sure that you have some extras is pretty important. Okay, number 2, on to camera gear. Backpack, of course, and we'll get into those a little bit later when we start packing. Tripod. For this trip, since I do have to pack lighter, I'm going to be bringing my smaller tripod, which is the Gitzo GT1545T, I think it's called, Traveler Series, with the Colorado Tripod Company Aspen ball head, which is my favorite ball head. And so this is a pretty lightweight setup, but it's also fairly sturdy. So I definitely recommend not skimping on a super cheap tripod. Make sure that you're getting one that will actually hold up your expensive camp gear. And then quick release plate. This is one that I have bolded and starred and underlined on my packing list because multiple times I have gone out with my tripod and I get to my location and realize that the quick release base plate is not there. So I have a new system in place now, which means that I never forget that. And once we get down to that section, I will walk you through it. So cameras and lenses then next. Camera bodies. Wide angle lens, standard lens, telephoto lens, or drone, or action cam is also on there for like some sort of waterproof. What is it, like the RX 110? I don't remember which one is the Sony waterproof one, but camera accessories, microphone, not getting that for this trip. Remote shutter, also not going to need that for this trip. Extra batteries. My rule of thumb is I bring 1 extra battery per camera. So I'm bringing 2 cameras, so that means I'll have 4 batteries with me. Extra memory cards. I just have a little memory card wallet that I keep in my backpack at all times, filled with SD cards so that I never forget any or never run out. Filters. I'll be bringing a circular polarizer filter, a 6-stop neutral density polarized filter, as well as a 10-stop filter. Hoping that we'll see maybe some waterfalls. You can use the neutral density filters to kind of smooth things out. And I guess next we'll go to step-up rings. So for me, it makes the most sense and financially and just packing wise to bring one set of filters that can work across all my lenses. So what I usually do is buy the largest filter thread size for my lenses, which would be like my 24 to 70 is 82 millimeters. So I buy 82 millimeter thread filters and then step up rings so that I can use them across all of my lenses that have filters on the front. Of course, I won't be using that with my 14 because it's a bulbous front, but like my 100 to 400 is 77 millimeters. So then I just have this 77 millimeter to 82 millimeter step up ring. So I can use all of those on my 100 to 400 as well. And it's worth mentioning that all of my lenses, I keep clear filters on too. They're just cheap, a very cheap way to protect your gear. It's maybe between like $50 to $100 for just a clear filter, but it is significantly more expensive to fix the front element of your lens. So I definitely recommend just getting some clear filters to put on your lenses as well. Rubber bands. I don't know if you have used circular polarizer or circular filters much, but sometimes they'll get stuck together. Often this is due to a temperature change. So I just bring rubber bands in my backpack, and if you wrap them around each filter, it gives you a little bit more traction to be able to work them apart. It's a handy little tip that I learned along the way, and I mean, rubber bands like weigh nothing, so might as well just keep some in your bag. Lightning trigger. I'm not anticipating encountering any lightning on our trip, so I'm not going to bring that. Microfiber cloth. I really love these little, I think the brand is like Spudz, but Sony makes some of these like little microfiber cloths that have a little keychain on them, which is so nice. I just put them on my camera straps and the cloth just kind of tucks into itself. So they're easily accessible and easy to clean. Dust removal tool. I've seen so many people go without this and just blow into their sensor and then get water spots from their spit. So honestly, this thing doesn't weigh very much, and it's a very useful tool just to keep in your bag at all times for any of the sensor spots or anything. Lens and body caps. I do keep, if I have a camera attached to a lens in my bag, I do bring one of these just in case I need to separate them for some reason. Maybe a friend wants to borrow one of my lenses. Just nice to be able to have those body caps just in case. And camera straps. Okay, so this will go back into my quick release plate. So I use the Peak Design system. So I use the Peak Design straps and the capture clip system, which I'll talk about in just a second too. So this is the slide Lite strap, and then this is the slide strap. And so the slide has some padding around the shoulder, which is nice for like heavier setups. And then the Lite obviously does not. But the great thing about these straps, of course, is that they are super quick and easy to attach on. But something else that I really love that ties into my base plate is that I use the capture clip from Peak Design, which sits on your backpack strap if you're not familiar with it. So you can just slide your camera in, and then it'll just like hang from your shoulder whenever you're hiking. It's nice, easy access. You don't have to like put your camera down if you see something, or sorry, put your backpack down to get your camera out if you see something really great. But one of the things that I honestly probably that I love the most about this system is that the Peak Design capture clip base plate is also Swiss Arca compatible, or Arca Swiss, I guess is the direction you say that. And so I can fit it on any tripod that I use that's Arca. So I never have to take it off. So I always have a quick release plate on my camera at all times. And then also with the strap, you can attach one of the points to the bottom of your camera. So then whenever you're wearing it, the lens folds down instead of sticking out to the side. I guess it's kind of hard to see with my black bag there, but often you'll see that, cameras kind of sit like this. So if you attach one of them to the bottom of your camera, then it sits down, which is just much nicer. You don't get any dings or anything on your camera. an Allen key for the base plates. I just have one, I think this actually is the one that comes with the capture clip, but it just comes with a jump ring, so I attach it to my memory card case so that I just always have it with me. And then a multi-base plate tool. This literally weighs nothing, so I keep it in my bag, but I don't often need it. But if I am using a different base plate for some reason that has the notch instead of like the Allen key, then this is a great little tool for that. Camera rain cover. My favorite camera rain cover, I think, is the Think Tank emergency rain cover. They're super nice for like a camera rain cover, but it is a little heavier than just these plastic bag ones from, I think it's Optech. So I think I'm probably going to bring this instead, just because I am trying to save weight in all the places that I can. I think I'll just bring these. And then camera backpack cover. I've got my Shimoda camera backpack rain cover here, and I usually just keep that in my backpack at all times as well, because you never know, especially in the mountains, when it's going to rain. Okay, number 3, tech and travel gear. So this is like laptop charger, laptop case, hard drives, all the chargers pretty much, like camera charger, power bank, headphones for the air travel. I also bring like my Kindle or my Nintendo Switch and those chargers, phone charger, watch charger, phone and watch, of course, too. And then Apple AirTags are something that I keep in all of my bags as well. They're nice little Bluetooth trackers. So if the airline happens to lose one of your bags, or if somebody steals it, you've got a nice way to track it so that you can find it. So I keep one of those in my backpack and then also in my luggage as well. Okay, number 4, clothing and footwear. This is, I guess, you want to wear moisture wicking clothing for sure. That is 100% something that I think I had to learn the hard way when I was starting out. I didn't really know. I'm from the Midwest where we didn't really do a lot of hiking. So when I first moved out to Seattle, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I definitely went on a lot of hikes where I just ended up getting drenched because I was wearing cotton, and it just like it made me cold and it was uncomfortable. So moisture wicking is definitely the way to go. And I recommend merino wool because it's not only moisture wicking, but it's also anti-odor. So you can wear it for multiple days and it usually won't smell, which is awesome for trips like this. So moisture wicking undergarments, tee or a long sleeve shirt, depending on the weather, of course. And I guess your body heat escapes much more easily through wet skin. So that's why you want moisture wicking properties. The same goes when you're wearing damp clothing. Like the dampness against your skin makes it much easier for your body heat to escape. So you want to make sure that you're staying as dry as possible. So quick drying shorts or pants, depending on the weather. Lightweight fleece, hiking socks. Again, I recommend merino wool for that. Just mostly nobody likes smelly feet, so the anti-odor properties are fantastic for that. Good hiking boots, and make sure that you're wearing them and breaking them in before you head out on your trip, because there's nothing worse than you're so excited that you're on your landscape photography trip, you're hiking around and your feet are just killing you because you have blisters because your shoes weren't worn in. So definitely make sure you're breaking your boots in before you go. Hiking sandals, if it's a hot destination trip, I'm not going to need those, of course, on this one. Casual shoes for air travel. Swimsuit and travel towel. It's the water temperature there is, I think, something around like 37 degrees Fahrenheit, supposedly around this time. But I am a sucker for a good cold plunge, so I'll probably bring my swimsuit. Face masks for during the travel if you're feeling sick or anything. For rainy or cool weather, rain jacket and pants, of course. I'll be definitely bringing those. Long underwear layers, again, merino wool is great for this. Insulated jacket. I prefer down to synthetic insulation. Oftentimes down just feels warmer and it packs down much smaller. Like this is my giant down coat that like makes me look like a big marshmallow because it's so puffy, but it packs down super small. ethically sourced down, of course, if possible, and hydrophobic down. So they can actually treat the feathers so that they are more water resistant, which is pretty cool. Insulated pants. I have some down pants here that also pack down really small. This isn't even a compression sack, so I might put them in a compression sack to make it even smaller. But I'm definitely going to bring those because I know I am very cold all the time. So, gloves or mittens. I usually bring a liner pair of gloves and then either mittens or another pair of warmer gloves to go over them. It's kind of nice to have that layering system. You know, we do that with our clothing, so why not also with our hands, especially when we're trying to shoot, which can be complicated when you have like big bulky gloves on. So these are the Heat Company, I think the WinPro liner. Really, really love these. And also they come with a carabiner so that you never lose a glove, which I love. And then I'm still kind of going back and forth. I have these down mittens that are so tiny and so lightweight. But since we are going to be on a boat, we're going to be on the ocean, there's many opportunities for me to get wet. I think it probably makes more sense that I bring a waterproof pair of gloves, even though they're bigger. So I'm probably going to pack these instead. Plus they have the little zipper on the top for putting hand warmers in. So I'm definitely going to bring some hand warmers, some hot hands. And I also have battery powered socks on my list because I have those. I'm not going to be bringing them on this trip, but they are wonderful. And if you've never tried battery powered socks, I highly recommend them. Number 5, food and water. Reusable water bottle or bladder. I'm just going to be using my Nalgene that's down there. If I'm hiking or if I'm doing more of like backpacking, hiking, I'll probably bring a bladder. But since this is like, we are technically going to be camping on the shore a few nights, but it's not like we're backpacking 20 miles. So I think just the Nalgene will be fine. Water filter. This is really important if you're going to be out on the trail for a bit and you don't want to carry 3 liters of water with you because water is very, very heavy. So bringing a water filter is a fantastic way to fill up on the trail. I'm not going to be bringing that just because we aren't going to be doing anything that intense on this trip. And plus we've got filtered water on the sailboat. Any trail meals that you'll need or trail snacks. I didn't bring any here to pack, but I love a good like trail mix or protein bar, something with high protein if you're going to be doing some hiking because our camera bags are definitely not lightweight. And a small trash bag for like my food trash or my snacks. I usually just bring like a Ziploc bag. It's, you know, you can just wash it when you get home and then reuse it. But it's nice, you know, if you come across any trash on the trail too, you can pick it up and pack it out with you. Okay, 6, outdoor gear. Sunglasses. I really love these Ombraz sunglasses because they're armless. So instead of having like arms that fold in, it's just like a strap. So which it's awesome for my camera bag because you can just throw it in there and not have to worry about them getting broken or anything. So these are really awesome. Packable down blanket. I'm probably not going to bring that since I am bringing a sleeping bag. So that's basically a packable down blanket. But I have a small travel one that I will often bring on planes. Trekking poles. I used to think trekking poles were super dorky, and now I'm like super stoked anytime I get to use them because they're actually like they make you feel like you're invincible. So I just have these black diamond carbon fiber that kind of like they make a Z. They're really lightweight and they like actually do make such a huge difference. So I highly recommend trekking poles. Kula cloth. If you squat while you pee, Kula cloth is a mandatory, I think, outdoor accessory that you need to have. It's basically just reusable antimicrobial toilet paper replacement, and it is like the best thing to ever happen to me. So I highly recommend looking into Kula cloth if that is you. Toilet paper and trowel. Since we're only going to be doing probably one night of camping, I don't think we'll bring that. Hand sanitizer, I definitely have a little bottle of that in my bag, basically at all times. Insect repellent or a head net. Luckily, where we're going is going to be cold enough that I don't think we're going to have to deal with any bugs. So I'm not going to need that. Bear spray, this is a huge one. If you're traveling anywhere where you're going to be in bear country, Definitely you're going to need to pick up bear spray when you land. You can't fly with it, which does complicate things, but it is an absolute must that you need to have if you're going to be in bear country. For us, unfortunately, not only can you not fly with it, but it's banned in Greenland, so we can't carry bear spray with us. So we're having to find some other methods to hopefully we don't encounter polar bears, but just in case, got to come up with something else. Z seat. This is one of my little creature comforts that I love to have with me. I think it weighs like 1 ounce, maybe 2 ounces, but it's just a little seat that's insulated. So it's really nice if you're like, you shot sunset and now you're waiting for astro. You don't have to like sit on an uncomfortable rock. You can set this up and it is just a nice little creature comfort. I always have a couple of carabiners in my bag just because you never know when you're going to need them, and they weigh basically nothing. A notebook and pencil. This also is kind of an optional thing, but since I'm a wilderness first responder, if I do come across somebody that's injured, or if someone that I'm traveling with is injured or sick, it's a way for me to log their vitals over a period of time. Also, it's just nice. You can take notes if you need, come up with creative ideas, things like that. But for me, it's mostly a first aid device. And then camping supplies like tent, sleeping pad, sleeping bag, sleeping pad repair kit if you're making, or if you're using an inflatable bag. My partner Nate discovered that he was very glad I had my sleeping pad repair kit with me when we hiked to Havasu, because we had just recently adopted kittens and he had left his sleeping pad in the package still, but out. And we discovered later that our kitten was absolutely obsessed with the kind of crinkle sound. And when we got to camp and he had tried to inflate it, there were probably 200 holes in it. We went through the whole repair kit, as well as we borrowed some tape, and it was a whole thing. So definitely make sure that you're checking your sleeping pad as well before you go. Pillow, camp chair if you want. Camp shoes, again, I'm not going to bring those since I'm going to have my casual shoes for the plane. Cook stove, stove fuel. Also can't fly with stove fuel, so you've got to get that when you land. Camp meals, spork, biodegradable soap for cleaning, a bear canister or bag. This is really important as well. You need to keep all of your scented items together in a bear bag or bear canister if you're going to be backpacking or staying out for an extended period of time. And then an unscented trash bag inside of that, just to help minimize the amount of smell that gets out. I keep a penny in my bag just for opening and closing the bear canisters because they often have that little like slot lock. And then camp toiletries, of course, like toothbrush, toothpaste, etc. Then number 7, important personal items. We've got identification, so like passport, driver's license, name tag for your backpack. I just got these like little leather tags on Etsy that have my name and my email address on them. And then also tag for your suitcases, credit cards, debit cards, of course. I always keep some business cards in my backpack as well. Super easy. Never know who you're going to run into. Airport lounge card if needed, vaccine card if needed, of course, your keys, phones, medications, and then toiletries. And I have all these listed out, but you know what toiletries are. I won't go through those. Number 8, so to do before I leave is my sort of like, gotta make sure I do all these things. So I've got hold on mail, turn the AC or the heat up or down, depending, to save some energy at home, and then charge everything: camera batteries, laptop, power bank, drone batteries, microphone batteries, headphones, headlamp, entertainment device, so like Kindle or Nintendo Switch. And then clear off all my memory cards and make sure that I have enough room on my hard drives. Download any music or movies to my phone for entertainment. Download offline Google Maps so that I can still navigate and look at a map if I'm going to be without service. And then also download the Garmin maps on my phone for my GPS device. Unplug some electronics that I won't be using to help save some energy at home. Pay any bills that will be due. Wash dishes and clean up. Take the trash and recycling out. I find that whenever I get home from a trip, I'm always exhausted, and so the last thing I want to do is clean. So I always find that it's nice to clean beforehand, so then you get home to a nice clean house. Then water plants or pet stuff, so like getting a sitter or food and water, making sure that they're all set. Okay, so that's my comprehensive packing list. I know it's kind of a lot, but I wanted to go through it just to make sure, or maybe it jogs some memories if you like, oh, maybe I should add that to my list. Now, which bag to bring? I think I've tried every single camera bag out there known to humankind, and I've definitely found that the Shimoda Designs is the best for adventure and landscape photography. And if I'm gonna bring more camera gear, then we'll like comfortably fit in a backpack. Like if I'm on a client shoot or something and I need a bunch of different lenses, then I'll bring something like a hard Pelican case. But since I'm not gonna be doing that on this trip, I'm just gonna be bringing my backpack. But like I said, I think the Shimoda bags are like the best for adventure and travel landscape photography. Um, Partly because they have really durable outer materials, but also because they're customizable, which I think is like the coolest thing. So the different, I'm not sure if you can see this super well, but there are different shoulder strap options that depending, if you're small, medium, large, or extra large. And then also the shoulder straps and the hip belts are removable and interchangeable. So like these are the women's specific straps, which is super cool. I don't think there's any other camera bag manufacturer out there who's even like considering women's bodies. So that's really cool. And then this is the women's hip belt as well. So I really love that. And then also one of my absolute pet peeves of backpacks is when you set it down and it just falls over and it has like no structure. So I also love that these actually just like stand up when you set it down, which is great. For like a weekend trip, or if I'm just kind of going out for like a day trip, I'll usually bring the Action X 30-liter backpack. And this is the women's version. And so it's 30 liters, but it has this expandable roll top. So it actually, like when you unroll it, it adds 7 additional liters. So it's more like a 40-liter bag, which is pretty nice. And then for colder or longer trips, I'll bring the Action X50. And again, it's got like the 7 liters of additional space up top, which is awesome. So now I'll try to quickly pack the bag up to kind of show you how I go about that. First, I throw in the air tag because that's such an important piece. So the new Shimoda bags is really awesome. They have a hidden air tag compartment. So I would highly recommend not just like throwing it in a super easily accessible place, because if somebody steals your bag and they're just going to probably look it up or open it up, look in, and they'll see it and just toss it out. So make sure that you put it somewhere that's hidden if you don't have one of the newer bags that has that little air tag pocket in the front. Now I'll move on to camera gear, and I'll try to do this upside down so maybe you can see a little bit of it. Okay, so first I'll put my 24 to 70 in with my A1. Then I've got my A7R5. Hopefully you can kind of see that. And my 100 to 400. And I always, instead of putting like the lens side down, I always put the back down. I just feel like it feels like it's a little safer. I honestly don't really know if it is, but that's just how I pack usually. Then my 14 millimeter will go here. And then I've got the 2 batteries I would actually put in the cameras, but I set them out for this, so I'll just put them down here. That's where I put the other 2. My extra batteries will go down here as well. Then my memory card case. Got my body and lens caps down the bottom there. Also with my little multi-base plate key. And my air blower. And I think that's it in that compartment. Guess I can also put my headlamp down there. And I've got filters up here with my filter step-up ring. And then also, so this is the large ICU. So if I were going to bring a drone or something, I would just put it up here. But since I'm not, I'm going to put some other things in there, like something that's nicely, easily accessible. Like I'll put my first aid kit there. And I guess I've got my other camera strap that I could attach to my other body, but I'm just gonna kind of throw it in here. And what else do I want to put in here since I've got a little extra space? I'll put my camera, well, I'll put that on the outside. So I think that's probably good for camera gear, if you can see that compartment. And then there's a laptop sleeve here, but I'm not going to be hiking with that, so you won't worry about that. Then from there, I move on to the outside compartment. Just, I find that it's usually easier to pack this before the whole bag is like super full, just gets a little bit easier. So I usually put all of my rain components out here because if it starts to rain, I don't want to have to get into the back camera compartment to get my camera sleeve out. I just don't want to risk those electronics getting wet. So I put all of my rain gear out here. So I've got my camera backpack rain cover and then my camera rain cover. And then I'll also put my little Z seat on out front here. And then my rain shell. And I'm probably going to be wearing these layers at some point, but just put them in here for now. And then if you can see on the Shimoda bags, they have, you can kind of see these little zippers here. They're really great for if you have like extra filters that don't fit in the back, you can put those there. I also put my business cards in these pockets because it's kind of a safe spot for them. Then I hook my carabiners. There's a little flap here for a water bladder, but I usually just, if I'm not using that, then I'll just hook my extra carabiners to that, and then also my Hula cloth. And that's good to go. And then from there, I do the top. So here we've got, let's see, I'm too short for this. I will put my knife in here. And I'll put my, I guess I should have put my rubber bands with the filters, but so I'll just put them in here for now. And then we've got the layers. I'm probably going to be wearing these liners at all times, but I'll put them in here just for the sake of us packing. My beanie, which I'm also probably going to be wearing. Got my Ziploc for my trash. Down pants. Which I might wear those at some point, but. And then again, I'm probably going to be bringing a lighter weight down jacket and then a larger one. And so I'll probably be wearing the lighter weight one, and then I'll bring this one as like a backup. Put my hand warmers in here too. And I think that's good for the top part. Roll that down. See it. And so yeah, you can see I've got like a decent amount of extra room here that I can load my camping gear in. Then I'll move to the side pockets. So there's a zip here. And this is where I keep my pencil and my notebook, just because it's a nice flat spot where I know it's not going to get warped. And then water bottle in this pocket. And tripod on the other side. And then we'll do the shoulder straps. So this pocket, I usually like to put my hand sanitizer and my chapstick, just so that they're easily accessible. Got my camera clip on this side, and I'll put my Garmin inReach GPS on this side, as well as my microfiber. And then last but certainly not least, I'll put my sunglasses so that they are also easily accessible in this pocket over here. So then that's pretty much what the bag will look like. It's actually not that heavy. You'd think like that was a lot of stuff on the desk, but it's actually like not too bad. So then I have my hiking poles. Where's my strap? Where I can be all set to go. One thing that I wanted to mention that I'm looking at my notes, I forgot to mention, was if you do have a Shimoda bag, or actually just any camera bag that has a removable internal core unit, if it comes with like a zip bag, keep that on it at all times, because I've had to gate check my backpack several times, even though I've told them it's full of batteries, it's full of electronics. They didn't care. So the first time I had to do this, I didn't keep that little zip sleeve that comes on the Shimoda case in there. And I had to just carry my internal core unit with my cameras, just kind of spilling out. And I was terrified I was going to lose something, that something was going to fall out. So just pro tip to leave that little zip bag in the bag at all times, just in case. So I know we're a little bit over time now, so hopefully this has been helpful and motivates you to get out there and take those photo trips that you've been wanting to, and maybe even enjoy packing one day. Traveling is inherently stressful. Like that's just a human fact that we have to kind of deal with. It's just human nature, but hopefully you can take some of these methods away and they will help to alleviate some of that stress of packing, like all the packing and prepping that goes into these trips. Um, I find that when I just remind myself like how much I love photography, how much I love traveling and seeing new places and capturing new places, that also helps to alleviate some of the stress. And it kind of allows you to make packing fun a little bit. Like you're going to have to pack one way or another. Might as well try to make some way to make it fun. So I like to like Tetris the core units, and that is sort of my little puzzle that I like to do for fun, which I realize now that I'm saying that makes me sound like the most boring person on the planet, but I'm a sucker for a good puzzle. But if you're still feeling a little bit intimidated by any or all of this, I do teach workshops both in the field and one-on-one online where we can chat about anything and everything. So if you're curious about those, you can check them out at inthewildworkshops.com and autumnschrock.com/workshops. Huge thank you to B&H and Sony for having me on. It's always such a pleasure to be here and to share the knowledge that I've acquired over the years with you. So hopefully you find it helpful as well. Again, my name is Autumn Schrock. You can find me around the interwebs on all the social medias as AutPops. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, I would definitely be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Autumn. This is why I do night trips. Just watching watching you pack that, my anxiety was going crazy. No wonder you guys get stressed. No wonder packing stress. It's like, man, I get stressed packing a single like small backpack. Um, I want to bring up some pretty good point here. And I kind of want to morph it into like a more broad question here. So, Star Performer joining us on YouTube is asking about the Starlink mini service in particular. For those that don't know about that service and just in general, I think we're going to start seeing more of this as you see, companies that are rolling out internet access to places that haven't normally had it or places where it has
Mhm.
been difficult or very expensive to. In Greenland, there is state provided internet, and Starlink is kind of seen as competition. There's kind of a monopoly on it. Not going to get into the nuances and everything, but it does
Mhm.
bring up a great point of number one, if someone would never think to look this up before they traveled, it's getting into like laws and politics and business stuff in a country that is completely foreign. And most people are really worried about the complete other
Mhm.
side of the spectrum. What am I bringing enough? Am I bringing the right lenses? They're not thinking about what laws got passed on internet access. So, Do you guys look into anything like that? How well versed do you stay on what's going on as far as laws might be concerned to places you're going or things that might be relevant? And then second point on this, do you guys ever have like a plan B, C, D? Is there stuff that I mean, we see it so it's so common now for flights to get delayed, flights to get canceled, you
Mm,
get rerouted to another
mhm.
country, and like stuff that didn't happen or we didn't hear about it 15 years ago is now so common in travel. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Definitely. Um, yeah, there's a lot I could say about all of that. For the first part, yes, we're definitely looking at rules, regulations, services, like resources that are available where we're going. Um, for me, I know the Starlink Mini thing is that out already?
Yeah, I believe it's
Yeah.
out. I think the thing is there's state run internet, and then Starlink is seen as like it could be great for redundancy, and the state owned internet access in Greenland in particular doesn't
Mhm.
reach all the remote access points, and that's something that Starlink would. So I'm not sure if it's banned right now or if it's kind of hung up in
Sure.
the regulation process.
Yeah, well, I know that our sailboat has Starlink on it where we're going to be going, and I've been told that it's very unreliable and basically you shouldn't count on it. So I'm not sure if that's something that's particular to the sailboat and that like they get access to it and that it's not great. I'm not sure if that's like sailboat specific or if that's kind of the area of Greenland where we're going specific. But I do know like that's what I've been told. And honestly, on these trips, of course, like having access to internet and things is nice, but I actually prefer being kind of like checked out and I just sort of have, if I need an emergency, like I have a device that I can use. But otherwise, I'm not trying to be on my phone on the internet. I'm trying to like immerse myself where I'm going, is usually like the sort of, I guess, methodology that I have behind that. But I'm definitely still looking at like rules and regulations and things that the locals are doing and dealing with. Because I think that is an important part of traveling, is kind of learning about the place that you're going. And then the second part to your question, in terms of like plan B, C, D, etc. Yes, definitely always am planning for that. Trip insurance is really, really highly recommended. Just because you never know what's going to happen. Specifically in Greenland, one of my friends who's going with us said that, I mean, she's been there many times, and she said probably 50% of the time the flights get canceled or delayed or something. And so we all are allowing for like multiple days before and after the trip, just in case like I mean, knock on wood, but we're anticipating that to happen. So it's definitely something to look at too. Whereas I've been on like what's the website? I guess you could use like TripAdvisor or places like that where I've actually Googled and they were like, yeah, my flight was basically canceled like every time I've tried to go there. So places like that can be helpful to look for that stuff, but also just like Googling um, like flights to said place. And often there will be like a blogger or somebody talking about their experience. And that's also really helpful. So a lot of research goes into sort of the like preparation stages that I guess I didn't totally go into, but we
Mm.
only have an hour, so I can only
Right.
do so much. But definitely having those plan Bs, like especially with the bear situation, like we're still trying to figure out how we have like multiple, like do we bring a bear fence? Do we bring the gun? Do we rent a gun? Because you can rent rifles there, but it's baffling to me that you can rent a rifle, but bear spray is illegal. That's so interesting to me. But so yeah, we're trying to sort of figure out all of our like plan Bs for the bear scenario. And yeah, that's definitely something to plan for as well, is just have X amount of backup options because odds are things aren't going to go exactly to plan every time.
So much stuff that I would have even thought of. We had a question come in, of course, bringing up reflectors, mirrors for signaling help, compasses.
Mm,
How much analog stuff? I mean, we've gotten so used to our digital comforts. Is there anything like a good old fashioned compass and knowing how to read a paper map? Do you guys
mm.
bring anything like that, or do you guys stay caught up on like, hey, I should maybe know how to do some stuff that doesn't rely on a phone or technology?
Yes. So lucky for me, my partner Nate is an Eagle Scout. So I've learned a lot over the years just camping with him. So yes, I think I mentioned early on that I like to use paper maps for when we're backpacking. And I don't know, there's something so nice about having the physical thing that you can write on and you can mark your trails and things like that. So yeah, we'll use a compass and paper map for that. But for this trip, since we're not really doing any like navigating, the hiking we're going to be doing is like we start on the shore and we go up a mountain and then we come back down. So not anything that I'm too worried about getting lost for. But again, that's kind of why this is here, is just a backup, just in case. And we're also going to be bringing radios, which I forgot. I didn't add that to my list. That's something I need to add to my packing list. I've never had to pack before. So we're also bringing radios so we can communicate with each other as well as with the boat, just in case something were to happen. But then that's a technological device. But in my first aid kit, I do have a signal mirror. What else do I have in there? I have a lot of like in that tiny little 1 liter bag, there's actually a lot of stuff that I was able to fit in there for not just first aid and like bumps and bruises and cuts and things like that, but also for survival. I have a lot of like fire starters. I've got like I said before, I've got blankets. Um, the signal mirror. I don't know. There's so much other stuff in there that I probably can't think of, but um, yeah, I find that relying too much on a phone or on a device when the battery could go or something could malfunction, it's just like I don't want to put all of my survival on just one little device. So I definitely think diversifying, having a bunch of different items that can help, that don't add too much weight to your bag, of course.
Mhm.
But I think that that's pretty important. Yeah.
Definitely. One final question. We just had somebody asking if you could repeat the models of the Shimoda Designs bags.
Yes. Um, so there is when I'm going on just a short day trip, or if it's like a really warm trip and I'm not going to be bringing any layers, basically, I'll bring the the Explorer V2, which is not this bag. I don't have it down here because I wasn't going to talk about it, but it's basically this bag without the roll top up top. So it's just a 30-liter bag. And then this is the Action X 30-liter that has the expandable roll top. And the Action X is usually just geared more toward like the hiking and adventuring versus the Explorer line is kind of more for just like everyday travel or just kind of like everyday carry. And then this is the Action X 50-liter. So you can kind of see the height difference. And I believe these two are, I believe this one is also slightly thinner, this direction than this one. So the height is one thing, but then also it's a little bit more, has more depth to it. But yeah, the Action X is my preferred line just because I love the expandable roll top. Like I can have a bigger bag if I need, but I can make it smaller if I don't need all that extra stuff. And then just some of the features are really great for like adventuring. So yeah, I really love the Action X line.
Awesome.
Hopefully that was helpful.
Yes, I think so. Well, Autumn, this whole presentation has been super helpful. Like I said, I probably never would have packed or even thought of probably 97% of what you went over. So it helps for the people who aren't used to preparing for big trips like this. I mean, it really puts the stuff on your radar of how far in depth you have to go with your planning. So I want to
Mhm.
send you guys our best wishes on the trip. We hope it's as smooth as possible and that we know you're
Thank
going to enjoy it. We know you're going to take great pictures, but we hope you have as minimal hiccups as possible. And we echo the sentiments of our viewers who want to see you back on after the trip. We want to see the pictures. We want to hear, what
Yes.
really, it would be nice to see what you plan in advance. And then we use this a lot. Never thought I would use this, or this never left the bag. I think it'd be kind of cool to see something like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea actually, because I'm sure there will be things where it was like, I thought I would need this, and turns out I actually didn't, or I wish I had brought this. So that's a good idea. I would be totally down for that.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to have you back again. We send you guys our best wishes, safe travels, smooth travels, and
All
we'll
right.
touch base when you're back on this land here. And to all of our viewers back there, thank you for tuning in. We'll keep you posted on that. We'll let Autumn and Nate and everyone else they're going with enjoy their trip. we'll bother them when they get back. So huge thank you to Autumn, the entire team at Sony, and on behalf of the Event Space team, thank you all for tuning in. Another edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space now in the books. Catch y'all next time.